Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January Emergency Services Committee meeting. I guess I'll ask you to join me in standing first for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, state, to the republic, stands, nation, indivisible, liberty, justice.
If we could just go around the table here real quick and maybe everybody introduce themselves for the roll call, starting with you, Rob.
Moore Patterson, citizen rep for Whitmer.
Chad Engler, citizen rep for Whitmer Fire.
Dana Ormerod, citizens rep at large. John Peterson, citizen rep, Burnham.
Paul Fisher, not citizen rep, representative for Burden Hand and vice chairman of the committee. Roger Root, East Lampeter Township supervisor.
Ed Church, citizen rep. Bronx.
And then it looks like on the Zoom, we have Mike Creamer, I think from Whitmer, Dave Gribble from Bronx, and Jason Blattle from Lafayette. Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you. So I think the first order, bear with me here. I'm not exactly sure how this all works. If I remember correctly, I think the first order of business is to appoint a chairperson for the meeting, or if I'm vice chair, is that okay for me to entertain the motions for, or the?
They group appoint a temporary chair.
Okay. All right. So we need to appoint a temporary chair, and then I think we got to do the elections for the offices for this coming year. So does anybody want to nominate somebody to be chairman, temporary chairman for the meeting?
Any one of you could nominate Paul to serve as the temporary chairman. He's just opening the meeting as the 2025 vice chairman because your former chairman is no longer on the committee.
I'll nominate Paul.
Okay, there's been a nomination. Is there a second to that nomination? Okay, then motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving that nomination, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so I guess the first order of business is to nominate and elect the office holders for the 2026 terms. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, it is chairman, vice chairman, recording secretary. Those are the three positions. Okay.
And you can do this as a slate.
Okay. All right. So are there any nominations, I guess, for chairman of the committee for 2026? I understand Mike's term has expired and he is no longer going to be the township rep on the committee. Is that correct? Roger will be the new township supervisor serving on the committee.
I was demoted.
So at this time, I did entertain motions for nominations.
I'll nominate Jason Byler to be the chairman 2026.
All right, Jason Byler's been nominated. Do you accept that nomination, Jason?
I think I'm going to pass on that due to some other commitments. While I have the floor, I'd actually like to nominate Rob Patterson.
Okay, Rob Patterson has been nominated. Do you accept that nomination, Rob?
Nomination.
Okay, so Rob has accepted the nomination. Are there? Okay, is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and second for Rob, and Again, I'm not that familiar with this process, so I apologize, but I think there's still an open question of whether there's any other nominations to run against Rob. Are there any other nominations at this point for secretary or for chairman other than Rob? Okay, hearing none. We'll take a motion, I guess, for the appointment of him as chairman. All in favor of appointing Rob as chairman of the ESC committee for 2026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Rob, you are the chairman of the ESC. And I'll
It turns.
turn it over to you for the remaining offices.
All right. The next thing of business will be nomination for vice chairman for 2026. Does anybody have a nomination they would like to present?
I'll nominate Chad Angler.
I'll decline.
Mike, I'm not sure if you heard that he declined your nomination, sorry.
I did, thank you.
I'll step in here and just say I know I was nominated for chair. Don't want to quite commit to that role, but I would be willing to accept the vice chair position if so nominated.
I'll nominate Jason Byler for vice chair.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Jason Byler.
I'll second.
Second. Any other nominations for vice chair?
Make a motion that the nomination for vice chair be closed.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jason Byler will be vice president for 2026. The next open position will be secretary for 2026. Does anybody have any nominations for that?
Nominate Dana. On the roof for secretary.
Due to other commitments, I respectfully decline that. I apologize.
Mike Kramer.
Due to too many other commitments, I respectfully decline.
Nominate Paul Fisher.
We'll define that as well. Thank you for that.
Might I, if the current secretary wishes to stay in the position?
I don't. I did it for 2 years. Need to pass it on.
Gonna ask one more time before the position stays vacant at this point. Does anyone else have anybody to nominate to be able to be a secretary?
Committee needs the secretary. Township staff takes on a lot of responsibility and this is not something we can add on. So the committee needs a secretary.
Just want to explain what they do.
Right, so taking the minutes of the meeting as Chad has done and getting them to the township staff in time for the next meeting.
Yeah, does it have to be someone on this board here, or could we open it to organizations to fill that vacancy?
To be on this committee.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would be willing to take that vacancy?
Can it be an alternate or does it have to be a primary.
We have a list of alternates.
Gallagher. You have Don Boyer from Hand in Hand, Jeff Keynes from Lafayette, Nate Church from Ronks, and John Kreider from Whitmore.
Jeff and Nate. No? No. Okay. Alternates.
Meetings are recorded, you can go back to them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just, I guess, pend it at this point and next, see if we can come up with a solution for the next meeting.
One thing that may be helpful if, cause I know like I use the recording and it takes me a while to get back. So but maybe if we can add a AI assistant in the recording that can capture the minutes.
We actually do get an AI assistant with the Zoom workplace, and I can tell you, we have looked at it. It is not great. I would never put out what it produces for us.
I mean, I've not looked at them. I know we have them that we're running, but I've not looked at them, so.
So it's taken at the current time, and we will hopefully in the next 30 days come up with a solution. Next part of business is approval minutes of November 20th, 2025 regular meeting. Did everyone have an opportunity to read through that?
Motion to approve those, Rob, or
Someone second? Second? Okay. Everyone in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Next part of business is old business, report from Firebird Placement Committee. Working hand in hand, engine 41.
yeah, no changes of status there.
Are they on schedule?
As far as I know, yeah, it sounds like from what we're hearing through the grapevine, yeah, on schedule and probably be a 2027 delivery date. So we're probably a year sometime.
Early 2027.
Yeah, probably a year and a half. We would expect to take delivery. We usually notify you a year out. We haven't gotten that notification yet, but we're expecting that probably fairly soon, so.
I'd expect our trip to Wisconsin for print approvals. This year.
Lafayette ladder truck.
Yeah, kind of in the same boat. No real updates there. And quite honestly, since the delivery date is until 2028, I wouldn't expect you're going to hear much from us this year yet, except for maybe later in the year.
All right, and then Bronx engine 48-2.
That should have been taken off because that got pushed back, according to the apparatus replacement plan.
That's my fault.
You know, okay. All right, next part of business is subcommittee reports, public information update.
I apologize. I am not in the meeting. This is Susie Sutton, and public information, we've reconvened online and we plan to do firefighter of the year announcements in the next publication, and we'll keep moving forward.
And, Finance Committee, any update on that?
That hasn't been a meeting for a number of months.
We'll want to move forward with getting that group back together to start discussions on a potential for fire attacks and how that may, the implications of that.
And that will also blend into HR. I'll review that with you, Tara, then too. Who's chairing that, Paul?
I don't think it was an appointed chairman, so I think it was, I don't think there was a chairperson, which maybe should change, but,
Would you be willing to kind of chair it as a subcommittee?
I could do that, sure. So I'll send an email out to reconvene that. If I include you on it, Tara, maybe you can help us kind of set the agenda for what the topics we ought to be discussing, unless this committee wants to talk anymore and I guess give us some direction. But I mean, I'm hearing the obvious one is to talk about the fire test and the implications of it. We can start with that, but if there's any other feedback from this committee, we'd be happy to take that up as well, so.
Maybe we can include you in the next HR. I'll review that with everyone. Human Resources Committee, we met January 8th at Lafayette. We had everyone attend, at least have at least one or two representatives from every organization. It was about a two-hour meeting. Things that we reviewed was getting back on track as far as a committee. It seemed like it kind of dissolved. We brought it back together. We reviewed the mission statement versus what the township's mission statement is, make sure that it aligned. We're doing SWOT analysis for each organization to review strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which I think will be a big part of the Finance Committee, that we can produce all that feedback and then present that to the Finance Committee of things that some organizations experience and other ones that are not. Some things that we kind of knocked down pretty quickly. There were some silos between some organizations. We reiterated that, we have to work as a township. We have to support each other, need to be transparent, because the community does give a fair amount of financial support out of the budget. The next meeting will be February. We talked about the survey that was sent out, getting another survey put together. Recruitment, hand in hand, has an excellent process with supporting data, what's working for them. And they're going to actually present that to the HR committee next month, and then try to come up with the other three organizations coming up with something that we can show from an HR perspective of recruitment and retention, and how we're going to be able to sustain over the next couple months, couple years. DB partnership, internship, there's two that are interested for 2026. The other thing we talked about, what can we do from a township perspective? I know of getting all four organizations together, each one has their own banquet, but can we do something as a township to get everyone together? Because that's our purpose. When you read the mission statement, and everybody was on board that was at the meeting, coming up with something so we could present to Tara, that we can get everyone together outside of training and et cetera, that it's more family oriented. And that's it for the committee. Anybody have any questions? Calendar activities.
So that was placed at your tables, and Lee is going to share that on the screen for those of you that are virtually. I will point out the one thing I took off of this calendar is Fire Prevention Week, which was in March for some reason, but last time I checked, that's in October. So I took that off this calendar. I think originally it was to combine the acknowledgement of the volunteer of the year and 25-year service members. But well, we can acknowledge Fire Prevention Week when it's supposed to be in October. I tried to list actual dates here. In the past, we have put a time frame. We know when our meeting dates are. We know when the Board of Supervisor meeting dates are. The checks go out the day after, so I can give you all those dates specifics there. The only thing I can't generally give you a specific date for here is the township distribution of the relief funds. It's when we get it from the state. So typically in October. However, if you don't have a state budget, that sometimes doesn't show up in October. And then at the bottom, I listed the 2025 activities that occurred. And that will, of course, need to continue to occur into 2026. So copies of your insurance policies, copies of your fuel receipts, and in case, the bulk fuel and reconciliations. The spill reports, greatly appreciate them coming in on a regular basis and when it's happening. The continued efforts for public information and recruitment and retention, as well as, discussions on finance. We all need to keep our eyes on finance, and we need to have those tough discussions moving forward into 26 and 27.
Just a question that came up, Tara. I see there, one of the concerns that came up in the Human Resources Subcommittee was we missed we had a meeting and we didn't have a quorum, and then it fell multiple months because there was no meeting scheduled during the summertime. If there's something we can look at adjusting that, or do we should do it because of summer vacation?
I don't recall who wasn't able to be present or how many weren't able to be present for that. And we did try to have one the next month, and we couldn't get a quorum. And I think we tried, I think you're right, I think we tried 2 or 3 times. Maybe someone. The committee was set up to meet.
Questions on the calendar activities? Annual list of activities.
New meetings. Covered workers' compensation activities for 2026. This is part of the package for the Board of Supervisors meeting on Monday. I have only had one comment provided to me by Whit, so this is what's going to the board.
Jared, at your request there, we would like to just add the Greenfield events. I can get you some bridge for that, assuming that it doesn't fall under the community events.
Yeah, so it would be good to call those out, please. So I will put that verbiage in there as part of the board's.
Does anyone have any questions on this current time? Is this, does this finally happen? When's the final happen?
It's approved by.
Okay,
Anything not on here then has to individually go to the board. Anything outside of the township individually goes to the board.
This is pretty much this same list that we've been doing repeatedly for. Has there been many things coming during the course of the year? I guess I'm wondering, what are we missing? Sometimes we don't think of these things now. Are there things that we should be, that you're seeing repeated requests to the board for that maybe we should be adding, or do you feel like it covers it?
Yeah, so we see repeated requests from outside New Holland, Strasburg for fire police.
That type of thing.
Parades, mud sales, all of those events, but those are all outside of the service area, right? So they need to come.
So we can't do a blanket exemption for those types of,
anybody else have any questions on the activities? So it's gonna be finalized on Monday? All right, moving on to new business. Old Township.
Okay, so the easy one announcement, Willow Road will be closing Monday, the 19th for approximately 3 months. I believe I announced that together. That's for a culvert replacement immediately in front of Oscar's Pet Resort. Everyone should be aware of that. Signs were placed earlier this week, and construction is beginning. The second thing is the tow. So you should have in your packet the tow policy that was changed. The changes that were provided to us. Yeah, the chief to be here tonight, chief of police to be here tonight to his. I know that for individuals in the audience meeting that the entire service to be able to all to when and who gets called for the service. And I think we've seen some.
So in my opinion, that would not happen, that it would be left to the officer that responds to the scene or the sergeant that's working that responds to that scene, and the primary basis for it is because if the tow service is called and becomes involved with cleaning up the scene, moving anything, we lose evidence. I realize that a lot of these are sometimes simpler accidents or accidents that, don't necessarily always involve injury. But the fire service is on the scene and there's a tow that's needed, then, likely there's a good chance that there can be more involvement to it than what's there. When these things turn into fatalities or what could be fatalities, or nobody's died on the scene, they've been taken away by ambulance and whatnot. That's a crime scene at that point. I say so, that's the district attorney say so. So just to randomly call a tow company to get somebody there on standby, wait, where you're wasting their time, doesn't want to bill for that time. We talk about the prices in the tow policy. We put prices in there to prevent gouging of people. But I wouldn't even know how. There's a tow list. The police, I'm not even privy to how the fire guy seen. I'm not trying to put you down at all, but how are you going to know who to call next?
See, what came up is, if you have MCI, a disaster and you don't have enough police to make it to a scene, you're delaying public safety for a tow. So there are unique situations that this policy doesn't address. So that's where it came up. You come into when you look at ICS and you look at, 2 tractor trailers that are involved and requires heavy rescue, that involves the fire chief of making decisions. This policy doesn't address that. So there are unique situations that this policy doesn't give that leeway for a fire chief to make ICS decisions.
Was the tow company getting there benefiting the life saving?
Because you need tows to pull trucks apart. Maybe a car is down an embankment that needs specific tow equipment. ICS is very clear on when it comes to vehicle rescue, the breakdown chain of command. That is very clear. That's a national standard through the fire service.
How frequently does that happen in East Lansing Township in the last year? The point being is if it happens once or twice, I get it. But that's just going to be the door opening up to do this in every other accident seen out on Route 30 that isn't that way.
Chief, it's not one incident. You're writing an ordinance that needs to address an incident that can happen. We don't write policies or ordinance where we got ourselves in trouble with the township before. We're writing policy or ordinance based off of a national standard or incident command. So when we're following that, this current policy does not give a fire chief the right to operate in their incident command capacity.
I'd have to give it some thought.
That's what we're asking for before. We're not, the police's, it's your policy gives a fire chief no guidance without going through a police officer to make ICS decisions, which is what they're supposed to base this on when they're making key decisions in an incident command situation. You have taken that power away from them. So when it comes back and the fireman gets injured, they get killed, this is gonna be a part of the investigation. And why couldn't a chief officer on scene make a clinical decision on something? Because this way this policy is written, it puts our fire service at risk. That was why it was brought up.
I understand your point. I would want to see what variable policies that would include that would look like. And I also want to see how many times that's actually happening in the town.
It's not, we're losing track of that. It's not how many times it happened. We prepare for it can happen or it will happen.
Understood. And as soon as you put the language in there for could happen, hasn't happened in years, it could happen. And then all of a sudden, it just becomes now that the police aren't calling code companies at all.
But that's not what we're saying how this policy is written. It would go through command staff. Command staff is a fire chief or someone that is in a leadership position of the fire company and make those decisions, which they work directly with the police officers now. But the way this policy is written right now, you don't give them any freedom or guidance to make clinical decisions.
I understand what you're saying. I get the whole point. And I also understand that you guys are all volunteers. I get that as well. And I also understand that there's a certain amount of urgency to get the volunteers back home. I get that as well. And I appreciate all those things. I still look back and say, there's evidentiary at those crash scenes. And that evidence can be lost based on how the scene is treated and the order in which the scene is treated, which will result in cases being lost in court.
I think there's two issues here. I mean, as a fire service, I don't think you guys could all collectively agree. We're not going to take care of tows. It's what Rob's referencing here is kind of the one-off situation. I think Bronx had a situation here a year and a half, 2 years ago, where there was a heavy record called because that's what was needed to perform the rescue. Part two to this, which I think is the bigger issue that Rob didn't hit on here yet. We have especially tractor trailer accidents. We have a lot of truck traffic through this area. The fact that we now do not have a hazmat team in this county, we're relying upon Lebanon. If we have a large spill, we have seen instances where some of the companies on the tow list do not have the capability to do that. It puts us in a very precarious situation. And so, again, the light tow, not an issue. We're talking the heavy tows, particularly around, hazmat, major fluid cleanup situations beyond just your everyday. Those do happen from time to time.
And I think then what we could do is find some language where there's exceptions for those situations.
I think anyway, the intent was, we're really looking for the fire officer in charge to collaborate with the police officer that's there, and the two of them to reach a decision that, that makes sense for the scene. How we write that, I think we just felt like right now it completely removes any potential or possibility of the fire chief really even, if a police officer on scene, and I've been there, I'm not a chief, I'm not on scene, we have chiefs in the audience, or maybe they want to speak to it, but I think there's been times when the call has been made where if the chief had it to do, they would want to reason a little more with the officer, say, look, can't we get this guy instead of that? Because whether it's a hazmat situation, whether it's the size of the record they know is coming out, whether it'll be capable of doing the job that needs to be done. So I know for myself, I don't think we're looking to usurp the authority of the police officer on scene. We're looking to have something where there's a joint collaboration, discussion, and then a good decision. So I don't know if we can write that into the language, or if that becomes too muddy, then if there's no, if there has to be police officer versus chief, but that's certainly not the way we're looking at it, Birmingham. We just really want to have, and again, I'll let chief speak to that, but
It's basically, it just boils down to, if I got 300 gallons, 250 gallon salad tanks ripped open on the highway, and you guys call Steffi Towing, because they're on the list, that's not helping me at all. So I need somebody like Alliance, Knowles, Waynes, somebody that is trained with DEP and EPA, like to come out and mitigate that situation. That's all we're kind of looking for. Or if we need a heavy rotator rescue or tow truck to come out and assist with the rescue. Those are like two of the scenarios we would ever, but yeah, when you're in an accident, that just makes it. I'm gonna get it fixed up.
Yes, the other thing that goes along with that, I think the other concern that we talked about at the last meeting was, I understand the maximum rate and all that, but the reality is, from what I'm understanding from our chiefs, is they're saying some of these wrecks that we're having, those rates are not going to, like, they're not near going to cover the cost to bring out sometimes multiple wreckers to move, or heavy wreckers and more involved scenes. So I guess my question, again, I'm not real clear on what the language is. I'm just looking at it here again, but I think that was a problem in the past too, where if that's the maximum that we can bill for, or that the tow company can bill for that incident, we're going to lose the ability to have the service that we need at times. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, chiefs or line officers that are in the room, but
I think it was that the state has regulations for that. Am I correct when I say that?
Yeah, so I'm Jared Ball from Norristown. The way the state handles it is we have to have our rates posted online on
To the state of Pennsylvania, or the state police.
Pennsylvania State Police, and it is the state law. We have to have our rates posted online, and we have to have them posted in our office. We cannot exceed what our posted rates are. We can be less. So I'm kind of confused. We own a business in East Lampeter. We have property in East Lampeter. It's not feasible for us to come in and tow in East Lampeter for light duty. It doesn't even cover our equipment, our employees, like, it doesn't make sense. You have companies on the list that are charging significantly higher than what your maximum is, but there's no oversight on. So that's how it's worked. If you would have oversight of your towing companies and go in and say, let me see all your bills from every vehicle you've towed over the last year, you're gonna find that they're not following your rules, but they're getting away with it. So,
We suspended. They just did one recently, but
so it's a problem. It's a problem that needs to be addressed. And I'm not saying you need to go in and inspect everybody and throw them off, because you're not gonna do anything. But from our standpoint, we don't understand why the township even sets the rates.
It started years ago because we would have some specific tow company charge $100 and some odd to pull a car 80 feet. And when another tow company would have driven 2-3 miles down the road, and it would have been significantly less. And they were doing it because they could do it.
And have those rates increased since they were set?
Now, these rates have increased since they were set. Sit here to say that at market cost.
I can assure you they're not even close.
So maybe just
Thing the chiefs, something the board of supervisors.
Okay.
So can, as a committee, can we, I think we're all in agreement here, that we can pass this to the board of supervisors. This is where we're getting ourselves in trouble as a township, these ordinances that aren't looked at, reevaluated, and make sure they're up to standard. It's hurting our community. And we know that specific language that's in the first ordinance that I've flagged, is can put detriment to our community. That doesn't meet the mission of the board, and further doesn't meet the emergency services mission to provide a standard of care, quality care in these situations. So I would like to see this updated by our next meeting with language we talked about. If you could work on it, chief, we can talk together off the record. Get some language on there that it doesn't come down to one person making a decision. It's a collaboration. If it's a serious incident, that it can be between the officer on scene from the fire department, and then also the officer that's running the investigation of the scene of the crash, work collaboratively in making a decision. I think that's fair on both. I will say, I believe the police department has body cams, correct? So there is physical, clear evidence of a scene that we didn't have years ago. So any changes that are taking place with more officers being on scene, there's clear evidence of things that are changing during that wreck. that we didn't have years ago. So, our goal is to, increase life and decrease fatality. And when it comes to, critical situations, especially motor vehicle accidents, our goal is to get that patient out as quickly as we can and get them to definitive care. So I think we're all in agreement as that we would like to see this language, if we could have a draft by the March meeting, is everyone in agreement with that?
You have samples of policy being that are written similarly to what you want.
And the fees, did you say the other township must post their fees on their website?
So we as the towing companies are required to post them. If the towing company has a website, they have to be posted on the website. And they have to be posted in our offices so that they're visible to the general public.
Towing companies.
The state probably, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, got involved with attempting to set rates. And the Attorney General's office told them that they could not do that. They cannot, and this is kind of the same thing. They cannot set rates for a private entity. You don't set rates of what Texas Roadhouse can charge for a state. You don't set what Turkey Hill can sell gas for. But you're telling us what we have to charge to run our private business.
So the quickest way to get those current rates are to go to the towing company's website.
If they have a website.
And we're telling you what to charge for an accident that's overseen by volunteers and the police department, East Lansing.
But you're calling our private business to come out and clear your public road at what you tell us we can charge.
And you choose to be on the list or not.
But that's why you're having the issues you're having, is because the legit companies can't come in and do the work that you need done for the prices that are set. And if they are coming in and doing it, they're not charging your rates. And they're getting away with it because there's not oversight of it.
And we,
Is that a perception or is that?
There's factual to back that.
but part of the concern of the rate issue, at least for me anyway, that it had been for boards in the past, is the rate disparity that can be between one tow service doing the same service of a second tow service. And the prices being astronomically apart. And then how is that received, and does it leave the board or the township in any position when a general member of the public pays X to have their car removed, when they know that it could have been removed or find out that it could be removed for at some fraction of that value, or that there's other services that could have been called for a fraction of the value? And then the concern about whether or not there's kickbacks going on between Officer X and tow company Y and these type of other things, that was the whole foundational purpose of putting fees in there. So somebody wasn't benefiting from specific tows that had no preference to them. And there are people there, they don't know the area, they're not AAA members, they don't have a tow, but they're not going to get price gouged just because tow company X came instead of tow company Y. And I certainly don't want to take any money away from you guys. That's not the point. If these things need tripled or whatever the case may be, to keep them in some kind of a marketable, equitable space, then in fact, so be it. But I would have that concern that I would want to see that, I make sure that just a general member of the public who's involved in a crash is getting something, I don't need to say a value or savings, but they're getting at a point where it isn't greater than what it needs to be.
So how about in the name of fairness, you would bring all your current towing companies and potential towing companies to the table and say, where are we at? Instead of setting a rate that's realistically between a fifth and an eighth of what it should be, bring us all to the table and say, where do we need to be fair and get the service that our volunteers deserve? That you're not every single motor vehicle accident, your police department is requesting fire for spill control because the towing company can't come out and charge to clean up for the spill because we're regulated to your rate.
Understood. Okay. What do you think?
I'd like to also break down what each tow company provides. So when incident command is making
that.
yeah, is making a clinical decision, they know, when they're working collaboratively with the officer that they're making best choice.
Yes, a question I would have on that as well is, we have it broken down here. On the policy, it says for crash vehicle, rollover vehicle, recovery vehicle, et cetera, but even that, aren't there wide disparities? A rollover vehicle could be,
It's huge.
Like, I don't
Another
know.
thing I'll throw out is when we get called by county, we're called for possibly a vehicle that's in a ditch. Well, if your officers are called to someone with a gun, are you sending one officer or multiple? So we're called out for a vehicle in the ditch. We might say, okay, the vehicle's in the ditch. We need to send a crane because why did they specifically say it's in the ditch? We send it out there and, well, it wasn't really in the ditch. It was over the curb. Now, the handicap, because we sent all the equipment, there's got to be some realistics here. And just setting one fee for every service that we're required to provide under light duty it's not right.
Yeah, prime example, we had an accident here the other night on the bypass, 2 tractor trailers, one rear ended the other, fluids on the roadway. I can tell you, these guys got way more than 300 and some bucks into it.
Rob, you had another hand in the audience there, if you saw it.
I wrote some notes down so I don't forget what I'm saying, but good evening. My name is Wayne McDade. I'm the owner of Wayne's Towing and Recovery, and I currently serve as the vice president of the Pennsylvania Towing Association. And I want to be very clear on why I'm here tonight. My presence here tonight is in support of the towing industry as a whole, not in support of my personal company. I have no skin in the game. I'm not a no preference tower for your department. So I just wanted to make it clear that I'm here in support of the towing industry and whatever towing providers you choose to service your community. In the past, I did seriously consider becoming a no preference towing provider for your township, including investing in a storage facility within the township. However, after reviewing the regulated rates that were currently in place, it was not worth my while to invest my time, equipment, my trained employees to tow for your township. If the rates are comparable to those of an adjacent police department, or the regulated rates were not even there, we would welcome the opportunity to work in your community. We're aware that your fire departments have experienced some challenges with the current tow providers. Towing today is no longer a local gas station with a tow truck that responds occasionally to a traffic stop or a minor accident. Modern day towing requires millions of dollars of equipment, specialized equipment, training. My operators make more than a paramedic makes. And an ELS transport to a hospital can be, from my understanding, $800 to $1,300. And when you have a tow truck that costs $250,000, that's comparable to an ambulance, and you have tow operators that make more than a paramedic does, it's very challenging to operate on the rates that were set. When I first explored towing for your department, my major concern was the regulated response rate. But then my concerns increased significantly when I found out that the towing companies were not permitted to charge for cleanup. At that point, I knew there was no way that my company could provide services to your department. I'd like to briefly emphasize on the importance of cleanup at the accident scenes. Pennsylvania Title 75, Section 3709C puts the liability of the cleanup back on the tow company. So MS4 stormwater management, the Chesapeake Bay runoff, proper cleanup at an accident scene is very serious. And you have a lot of tow companies that just do not take that seriously. To explain why accidents are costly, especially when compared to your current rate schedule, I'd just like to explain one situation. When a vehicle is towed into a storage facility that's leaking fluids, proper fluid containment of that vehicle once it gets to the storage facility is very important. You have tow companies that have operated in your township and still do operate in your township that tow vehicles into their storage facility, and they put it in a storage facility and it's contaminating the ground. And it's no concern. there's a product called an undercarriage spill blanket that we put on every vehicle that comes into our storage facility that it contains the fluids that are leaking out of there. Those undercarriage spill blankets cost me more than what your regulated tow rate is for me to respond. So if I would respond out to an accident, a light duty accident, and I have 2 bags of oil dry, the proper disposal of that oil dry is not throwing it in a dumpster. The proper disposal of that oil dry is to contract with a waste company to come pick that oil dry up. That's costly as well. So just the cleanup at a basic single vehicle accident can greatly exceed what this ordinance is saying that we can totally charge for our services. And as I understand, you're currently reviewing new policies and procedures for your no preference tow program. My professional recommendation would be one of 2 options. Either the rate is established that allows qualified professional companies to operate profitably, or just do away with the rate schedule completely. Most of your adjacent townships do not regulate the rates. I tow for 7 different police departments, and only one of them regulates our rates. But what they do is they regulate our response rate. So we have a response rate, but everything below that, they understand that we have to charge for oil dry. We have to charge for disposal. We have to charge for an undercarriage spill blanket. We have to charge for battery acid neutralization. We have to charge for Gold Crew TC, which is a hydrocarbon eliminator that we put on the spill after we're done cleaning it up. We have to charge for traffic control units that come out. We're obligated by OSHA guidelines to provide our workers with a safe work environment. I tow for a lot of police departments that no longer have fire police. So I have traffic units with message boards that follow our trucks out to the major highways. That's not something that we just do because we feel like it. I'm obligated by OSHA to provide my workers with a safe work environment. If I know there's a hazard there and I don't do anything to attempt to prevent that, and I can be held liable for that.
Conclude, and before the conclusion, can you give us the motor vehicle, what an average cost is, just because we're in a public forum, we do have a supervisor.
On a basic single vehicle accident right now with fluid loss, you're anywhere in the $800 to $1,400 range. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of and a lot of, like I said, that's with fluid loss, because a lot of that is geared towards the cleanup. So I would just like to say, just to end this, like I said, I was here in support of our industry as a whole. Whatever tow providers you choose to work for your township, I think they deserve to be fairly compensated for the work they do. And the current rates that you guys have are definitely not industry standard. And if I can be any assistance, like I said, I have no skin in the game. I'm not a tow provider for you. But if I can be any assistance with giving you some recommendations on what, like an adjacent police department that I tow for, what their set response rate is, I'm open to that. I'd be more than happy to give you any information on it. Thank you.
Terrence, is there any communication that we can set up for the companies that are here to communicate with one specific person at this time? Or, well, we know that this meeting, that the prices are, we know that they're out of date. So when they're making a decision on this, we have a couple of tow companies sitting here that they could provide when you're looking at reviewing what it truly costs. Examples of, we have one in the township here of what it would cost for a basic tow, so we can know. Because $175, $300 is much different between $800 and $1,400 for a basic crash. Anybody have any other questions on?
Just one other thing that I remember from the last meeting that was brought up by various companies. The officers that are on scene at times don't know who. So discuss with chief about making sure that the officers have a list of the tow companies, so they know who to call. Am I correct? That was brought up.
Or like had the records, I think it was.
Yeah.
They weren't quite sure who was capable of doing what, we needed to say here.
And that kind of led into why the fire companies felt like the chiefs should be making that call because they know who to call. I think Steve Gribble was the one.
Yeah. Or at least one of us will go up, one of the officers will go up and be like, hey, we know Knowles has a rotator, we probably has a rotator, we need rotators, we don't need just a heavy duty truck, or something.
I'm more concerned about the officer who doesn't know and then fixing that end of things, so you know who that was.
Well, I spoke into that as well when we moved into East Peter several years back. We emailed, I believe it was Aegis at the time, and he commented that you do not have a heavy duty list.
We do not have a heavy duty list.
And that was the problem of like, how do your officers know who to call for heavy duty?
I've never called for heavy duty for X number of years, and why it hasn't been passed down to the guys in the street. I should have an answer to that, but I can't explain why they wouldn't.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, I understand the point.
Rob, that information that you're requesting, the tow operators in the audience today, will go to Kim.
Okay. You okay, manager?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Terry.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Terry.
So Kim did send this to the township solicitor before bringing us back here. And unfortunately, we got that today. So haven't had a whole lot of time to look it over, quite honestly. There are some questions in here from the solicitor that we'll need to answer. There's some changes that she's recommending. And then she also provided the regulations that limit the amount of fines that we can impose. Which I believe was included with your fact, is that correct?
So, Terry, okay,
All of the highlighted areas on the alarm piece is the areas where the solicitor fees items were had comment.
I think the fees were okay if they can find more than 200. Yeah.
So you'll see some of the changes were instead of governing body, it's board of supervisors instead of. Places that get to a 30th alarm. And unfortunately, we do, so.
I have a question. Yeah, he's appropriate, but they're push it on the street so that those people don't have to back. Or is that something for a future?
Honestly, and I didn't have this one.
No one, no problem. Thank you. Once again.
Is this something, Tara, that we can review for another 2 months and then maybe come back with some feedback? Because I'd like to read it and digest it.
Also includes a false alarm, an alarm registration as well.
To read that, process it. I guess the one fundamental question I still have, that kind of, one of the questions we had up front was, is still that whatever fine we end up with, or whatever the process ends up being, is what how will the enforcement of that be any different than what it is now? Because I think that was kind of where we were getting hung out back before. In other words, if the fine sounds like, just at a quick glance, it looks like the maximum fine is $300. Let's say somebody racks up 10 of these and now it's a $3,000 fine. What does that, and I don't know if more of that's detailed here, but from your experience in the past, how will anything change there? Or is that still essentially an unenforceable collection?
Actually direction in there to go to the district.
So that'll be more of it'll be more of a enforceable action at that point. I think that was one of the real concerns that I had about it.
One question I have would be, looking at one person's, breakdown township of that. Maybe the police chief can answer this, but the police side of it exceeds like 530, 650. It goes up and up and up for a police automatic fire alarm that they're making response to a house. How's that any different from the fire service?
We've actually had the discussion about aligning these two, the police false alarm response and fire department false alarm response. The chief and I have had those discussions. The PD goes to residents. This committee said it's commercial, that's the issue, not residents, and didn't want to touch residents.
Well, but that was my question though, is one I'm looking at right in front of me is there, for the police side of it, the fire side isn't as high, but the police side is going up. It's very clear, 320, 420, 530, and it just keeps going up from there. How is it at the district level? How is it okay for the police to go up, but they're saying the fire service, it has to stay stagnant at $300?
That's not exactly what it's saying. It's there are, for the first false alarm, $100, second false alarm, 100, third, 150, fourth, 200, fifth, 300, and sixth, and each additional, you add $100 to that.
$300.
It'll not be sense to pay a fine not more than $300. Plus cost and default of payment, said fines and costs to a term of imprisonment exceed 90 days. They're saying anything over $300, you're probably not gonna get paid for. So I would just need clarification on, in Pennsylvania, if it's code for one, it's gotta be code for the fire department too, or why is there two different codes for police versus the fire alarm?
Two different codes for the police and the fire department false alarms since I've been here.
Right.
So looking to align those, and we'll keep going back to the solicitor with these changes as we move forward.
I did find something for residential I'd like to add in here, but I'll email you that offline. I think it's one of the townships had a good ordinance of giving them a waiver, but there's certain things you have to do for that. So,
I just want to remind you, this committee said, don't touch rifle. That was one of the things.
I think that was the understanding, and I think one of the reasons was, I don't think that was where the real problem was that we were trying to address for the most part. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I know for us, it's not, maybe there's for some of the other companies, but by and large, by far, the problems we've been having have been commercial. And that's why we did not want to overburden the residents with something that really not creating a problem. I think that was the.
moving wrong, I don't think the ordinance deciphers that though.
It was written that the false alarm ordinance for residential would stay consistent. And the increased fines would be for commercial.
But residentials do have a chance of getting them. The first alarm, the way it is, I think currently is written that they can get a fine. There is no waiver for the first automatic fire alarm residential.
Residential fees, false alarm, police department fee, $50 per false alarm. The first floor fire department fee also. Where did the conversation go as far as, I know there was some conversation last meeting regarding the real habitual offenders and potential suspension of occupancy permits?
We cannot suspend occupancy permits per the solicitor.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll pen this till next meeting in March and give you feedback, I guess, beforehand.
We have this set out.
No, thank you.
Okay. As far as the committee, any new business from physical committee members to present?
For individual faculty?
Yeah.
I can go first. Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot for Burdenham. Our annual banquet's coming up here next week, so we're having that. We had our elections, the December meeting. If anybody's interested in that, I think we updated the website. I'm not sure. I know it's on social media, so if anybody's interested in that, you can check that out. And I think a real major shakeup there. First fundraiser's coming up with our pot pie coming up in February. I don't think I really have a whole lot else administratively. Chief, do you have anything on the fire side you want to?
Yeah, Chief, and Don Boyer. We did start a committee for a traffic unit. We're going to be getting rid of our little yellow bus. That's affectionately known. We bought a Chevy 3500 chassis and we are getting Pine Hill to put a body on it. That should be done around the end of April. And then with upfitting and lettering, things like that, we expect probably the end of May, beginning of June to have it in service. So that will be labeled traffic 41. That will strictly be a fire police vehicle. I think that's all right.
I think that's all I have.
John, there, for Lafayette, as far as events coming up, we have our annual floss on sale coming up here, I think February 15th. The banquet, the end of January. Our capital campaign is still in its silent phase, but we've achieved about 30% of our goals so far and are continuing to chip away at that with a lot of community participation and helping to solicit there. Additionally to that, we are in the process of working through the radio upgrade. Thanks to the guys down at Bronx there. We're working with Hamilton Installs there with several other companies as well. All purchase rates, if you will. We're looking at about $85,000 to replace current radios to become phase 2 compliant with the county. Additionally, also just thank you to Tara for attending our company meeting. I think a lot of our members were surprised to learn her connections to the volunteer fire service, so it was very insightful. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Bronx.
I can go, Rob. Whitmer's got line dancing this Saturday, the 17th, 6 to 10 at our firehouse. Next Oxford's coming up February 14th. Sales start at 11 a.m. We have a ELT Fire Chiefs meeting scheduled for the 17th of February. A blood drive coming up February 18th. And that's all I got.
Then Bronx, Dave.
The only thing we have is we've placed the order to replace all our portable radios to be phase 2 compliant with the county.
All right. Citizen members, any citizen members have any new business they'd like to?
No.
The only thing I wanted to present, just from the human resources meeting, when you look at total volume instances that our organizations in the township answered with over 1,500 for the year, which is pretty busy. Lafayette was over 700 responses for the year, which is an increase. I don't know.
714, it's almost 100 calls.
Yeah, so they increased 100 calls. Where that becomes concerning, when we look at recruitment and retention, is in their area and Whitmer area, we're adding a significant amount of townhomes. And I don't think that was taken into consideration in previous meetings, how this is going to affect our fire service even more. So that's one thing that we're going to tackle in this Human Resources Committee, looking at recruitment and retention. Because that equals out to a little over 4 calls. If you look at 365 days, that's over 4 calls a day. That if you'd break that up, that are fire departments being utilized on something. So that is kind of concerning to me, that we had no plan before. We are looking at that now, that with all this buildings comes with utilization of fire departments even more of some capacity. You're adding, probably over 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 residents into the area that weren't here before. And what is the overall impact that's gonna be to the fire department? So that's one thing we're relying on hand in hand for, to give us their structure of what currently works for them, and then as a committee of putting it together, hopefully coming up with something that we can utilize that's been successful for them over the other 3 organizations, versus making 3 other organizations do the same amount of work that you could utilize someone that's already been successful in the township. So that's what I'm kind of working on the backside, and I want to bring to everyone's attention. You don't necessarily, a number is a number, but when you break that number down, it has a serious impact. That doesn't include the administration and leadership for each organization that, they already had a workload on top of them, but now this additional building, et cetera, is a lot more work on our each administrator, especially the fire chiefs and down. So that's the other thing we're looking at, hours spent that we can talk with Tara and submit that information, because we surely don't want to burn out our administration, because we won't keep them long. So I want to find ways that we can help with that some way or another. And I think this committee is very valuable of, we can make a difference now and look at trying to improve that service instead of it's too late and we're behind April. Any other questions or anything on new business for committee? All right. Anybody from the public have any comments for the committee?
Yeah. Yep. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. The ESC committee, things changed quickly in the last month. But Roger will be our supervisor representative. Rob, congratulations to you to be our new chair. We got some great things happening. Personally, I'm very glad to see the committees kind of getting up and running again. The committee that you were talking about, the public relations and human resources. Don't forget the school program, the internship program. I think that's a great piece of it. Keep moving forward. So good luck to everybody. We'll be around. You'll see me. I'll see you. Thanks again for all your help.
And for your service, Mike. Speaking of that, EMS is going to be involved. Work with Susie next year. It's going to be a part of that internship. Another aspect of there'll be an option for the high school. Any other questions? Any feedback before we come to an adjournment?
Rob, I just have a follow-up on old business from last meeting we had. If you look on the minutes, I mentioned about roundabout Conestoga Valley. And so tonight I was a little tardy to the meeting. I apologize. This is like where my heart is. But we have 2 special guests in the room. This is Anna Michelle and Hayes. They're from Portland, Oregon. They are served with New Public, which is a nonprofit that is funding this initiative for Conestoga Valley. And so we would love anybody that's interested in getting signed up to kind of meet with us after the meeting in order to give you the login and allow it to grow, and just, again, to really embrace the fact that this was born out of community outreach from our fire service in East St. Peter Township. So that's the reason we have a connection. And so I just wanted to really celebrate that. Again, celebrate the people in the room that are doing the work in the community. And there's some people that believe in us from not even our state. So
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Anything else? All right, I make a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Favor? Anybody against it? Meeting adjourned.